to spell it out, are looking for 4 map wins. If they get 4 map wins, it puts them on the same number of maps as Order, who will be equal with them in match wins, map wins, in standings.
But not head-to-head.
If that does not work, then the Drop Bears will not get first.
That's true. So Legacy going to try and throw a spanner in the works here already. Bit of an interesting composition with Rani onto the Wrecking Ball. Ike playing Tracer. It's a very like dive-heavy kind of... It's like a tank dive comp really here for Legacy. You've got the Winston still, you've got the Diva, and the Wrecking Ball. I'm not so sure that this is going to work out against the Goats. I think Goats is just going to have extra healing. Though, that said, Bionade, and somehow Rani gets a double kill.
I don't even know. I don't even know. Oh my goodness. Legacy, look at this. See you later. They have... Oh man, they're coming out. All guns blazing.
I'm going to be honest, that's not something we're going to see every fight.
Rani doing a dance here as well.
Bit of egg on my face, but look, chances are that doesn't happen again.
There's no way that will happen a second time.
Or actually it was a 3-man Bionade that was followed up by Rani getting, I think, he knocked a Kraken off or Lucio off. The other one was killed just by him swinging.
Look, they're going to try and chase down poor Ike there. It leaves the rest of the team kind of on their own, to be perfectly honest. Us trying to get some charge.
Just literally running through the entire team, holding down.
Oh, Ike! Huge pulse bomb onto the supports, and Rani finds the third.
What on earth is happening here?
Hello, production. Do we have the team names round the wrong way? What, we don't? That's essentially what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah. I mean, we're still only at 45%. These fights have been so quick. I do like the adaptation that Sydney Drop Bears made by putting Huss onto the Sombra. That was the last fight. But it is going to make life a little difficult for Legacy. If you get a hack onto the Wrecking Ball or onto Winston or Diva or even onto Tracer, that's a fight that Huss can win. Obviously not if he doesn't get the hack.
Ike finds Huss as well. They have been targeting the Tracer and not finding the picks. Legacy coming through with another fight win. Fundraise popped the Primal Rage. The rest of the team starting to stack ulti. Stolen Picnic with the boop. Fundray now just going to hold the left click here up against Teeterwatt on the Winston. And these fights, one after one, are going in Legacy's favour. Finally, the Drop Bears, though, start to bring it back. We're going to get to 85%, maybe 90% before they make something of this, though.
It should be even maybe a little bit above 90% here, depending on how long Noosh lasts, but generally speaking, this has been pretty well done from Legacy. My concern is, though, that obviously the point's gone over to Sydney Drop Bears. They've seemed to have kind of got to work their way back into this game now, and the onus is onto Legacy. So, look, Legacy's great when they're sort of performing, when they've got the momentum, when they're not necessarily being pressured too hard. But now they actually have the pressure on them to cap this one back. Are they going to be able to do that against what would be considered the best team in the region right now?
Going to try and target Huss, who does manage to translocate out. Like, going to get caught out by CKM. It's going to be Rani. Oh my goodness, who gets the nano boost, but the Drop Bears looking to win this fight as well.
Yeah, a little bit over-eager, I think, on the sound barrier there from Stolen Picnic. The fight was well and truly lost. Maybe he was trying to save Fundray with it, but it came a little too late. And even then, like, Ike was dead, so you can see Sydney Drop Bears have got such a big advantage now.
Yep.
Huge ultimates across the board. They've been winning these fights very economically. Legacy's had to swap their roster up a bit. I don't see Legacy coming back into this one.
Yeah, they really don't have enough time, particularly when there's a big 5-man EMP. And now the Drop Bears are in a position where they can literally just rotate through limited ulti charge. And, it's not going to cost them very much at all. Just use their economy smartly. Huss, after using the EMP, will swap now across to the Zarya. And you'd think that he'd probably catch up and even surpass where Ike is, based purely
that's a bad choice
on the fact that the Drop Bears should be able to win these fights a little bit more easily than Legacy can. Teeterwatt going to jump in with the Tesla cannon, the Primal Rage available and popped. Sound barrier also going to come out there from Bertlog. Fundray, though, did have a Primal Rage, so it's Angry Winston up against Angry Winston. Self-destruct in the middle. The Drop Bears actually throwing a lot into this fight, but we can see why. We're now into overtime. They just need to win here. Well, they have to win here, and they will.
Teeterwatt gets low, but the Transcendence will top him back up. Nicely done from a Kraken. The trans coming out now from Mo. That
Yeah.
said, Legacy have already lost a player, so it is a 5v6 and they need to equalize. They're just not finding that pick that they need, and in fact, a Kraken gets the headshot into Stolen Picnic. That should be the floodgates opening now.
All right. So, first round going to go to the Sydney Drop Bears. But that was interesting from Legacy, coming out with something we had not seen before.
I think that was just sort of Sydney Drop Bears getting caught napping at the start, realistically. Like, there was one fight where, okay, 3-man Byronade hits, and then it's finished off by the Wrecking Ball swinging on through. Not going to happen every time. Bit of a play that, like, you can't really expect to execute that consistently. And then the second fight, 2-man pulse bomb to both supports. Again, very unlikely that that's going to happen every fight. So once we got to the more sort of quote-unquote standard fights where, you know, all the ults were going in, you were getting the value out of the ults that you were expecting to see, that was when Sydney Drop Bears kind of just finished things off really, really easy. So for Legacy, sure, not a bad start, but still no point on the board. Sydney Drop Bears are up 1-0. And now that we're sort of running goats v goats, standard goats v goats, again, you expect Sydney Drop Bears to have an advantage in that capacity.
Can't help but wonder, though, if maybe it was Order running the lineup the Legacy ran. They would have found a win if they played it better, perhaps. And look at this, T1 trying to go down to Mo. How is that even possible? Legacy on a goats v goats, straight off the bat, no ultimates available, find the fight win.
Well, it's good to see. Means Legacy can challenge Sydney Drop Bears. But T1 somehow killed Fundray.
Yeah,
and
that's expensive.
I mean, Legacy, they kind of, in a sense, almost allowed Sydney Drop Bears back into that one. It's going to take not a lot of time for Sydney Drop Bears to actually just recontest this point. You can see so quickly, 10% is all that's capped up from Legacy before the first contest actually comes. Normally it takes a lot longer than this. And Fundray is very low immediately off the bat. So unless there's a pick, not a shadow that you need to see. Needed to see more players on the ground. In fact, any player on the ground would have been good.
Yeah, just one, like we talked about in our last Macca's play of the game, would have been enough. Now 25% for Legacy. Mo with the Transcendence, but the Drop Bears have so many ultimates to work with. Their shadow comes through, doesn't find, I think it finds Ike, but Fundray goes down no matter what. Irrespective of that, the Drop Bears going to find this fight win. And still 45% for Legacy here or thereabouts for, really they didn't need to do too much to get it either.
Solon just trying to go to the moon there, getting booped off the pillar in the middle a few times. Doesn't matter too much. 48% capped up for Legacy, and they weren't able to come back from it when they had 96% on Night Market. Oh, sorry, on the last round. And now here on Control Center, they have even less room to work with, and they're up against Drop Bears just playing standard goats. I would be a little concerned.
Grab comes through, gets a few, self-destruct in behind as well with Fundray down the self-destruct. Kind of has free reign there to take down Mo. Rani going to get found out also. So a pretty simple fight win there for the Drop Bears. Legacy though now starting to stack their ultis. They're going to have 5 coming into this next fight. Let's see what they can do with it. They need to obviously much more difficult, Jordan, to rotate through ultimates correctly if you're trying to attack and you're trying to get through, you know, this sort of choke point.
I mean, you don't have to go through to this exact choke point. There is an angle up to the right that they can take on the high ground, but even then it is still pretty difficult choke. Grab's going to go down here. That one from Ike.
Yeah, Noosh drops the self-destruct right in the thick of things, but a Kraken and Bertlog will use their support ultimates to keep all 6 players from the Drop Bears alive. That was a great shatter from T1 as well. Hits 3 or 4, and Fundray goes down. Legacy have now dropped everything other than Stolen Picnic sound barrier into this fight, and they are no closer to getting back onto the point.
Not good at all, but the one advantage that Legacy do have here is that they've got support ultimates to work with. Well, at least one of them. Stolen Picnic with the sound barrier. We're waiting for anything there for Sydney Drop Bears in that respect.
The Drop Bears falling back here as well to try and give themselves time to find a couple of ultis, and that's going to allow Husk to have that grab. You could probably just grab them almost off the point as well if he's sneaky enough.
And sound barrier is not the defensive support ult that you want against the grab. You really want the Transcendence. That's why Legacy is not engaging this fight until they really have to.
The grab will come out from Haas, running down. Fundray throws out his, but it won't be enough. Self-destruct and trance from the Drop Bears. Support goes down here for Legacy, as does the main tank.
Grab got eaten if it even mattered.
It would not have made a difference. So, Legacy will go down 2-0 here to the Sydney Drop Bears on Lijiang Tower. To be fair, the expected result, but the first round was a little bit closer than maybe we thought it would be.
Look, I don't want to use the L word, Ben, but I do think there might have been a little bit of that in there for Legacy. Look, one map closer on that journey for Sydney Drop Bears to first seed in the season. All in all, I didn't see too much that really concerned me. Like, yeah, sure, 96% on the first point there for Legacy, but the way in which they got there, it's not going to happen consistently enough, especially against a team like Sydney Drop Bears, for it to really be a talking point, I don't think. So for me, we've seen already from Sydney Drop Bears, we've seen Sombra Goats, which look pretty good. We've seen Standard Goats, which look pretty good. So they've kind of got it all that they need to go up against Legacy. I don't think we really expect to see Legacy running too many DPS compositions. So if Sydney Drop Bears can win pretty consistently on Sombra Goats and Standard Goats, that's, I think, really what all that they really need to defeat Legacy today. And so far, so good. So far, so good, but still 3 maps required. 3 from 3. It's definitely a challenge, and I think Legacy have shown that they are capable of taking something here potentially from the Drop Bears. It's not a free win at all. No, definitely not. And no match actually that Legacy has been in has really been a quote-unquote free win for the favoured team. You know, we came into this season expecting Legacy to literally be the worst team, and I think they've quite successfully proven that they're not the worst team in the AU contenders. Obviously, they've fairly solidly put themselves in 7th. Not only have they been able to take... Not only have they been able to take the win against Atletico, they've been able to take maps against other teams. Yeah. That's the real thing. 2 maps off a blank, for example, really impressive from Legacy. Look, I'm trying to find the silver lining for this roster. Well, I think there is a silver lining. Here's the thing, right? I don't even think you need to find the silver lining. I actually think they did quite well for the season. They barely even made it in, then all of a sudden they're taking maps off teams that are theoretically going to be far better than they are, and they've got this great base to work with. I think they've had a good season. Sure, you'd love to make playoffs, but not everyone makes playoffs. You can still have 8 good teams, and only 6 of them make it through to playoffs. So, look, I think Legacy should be happy with how their season has progressed, even if maybe they could have got a little bit more. And everyone wondering what the L word is, it was luck, guys. Oh. Literally no one got it right. I assumed it was leprechauns. Because they're green, right? Anyway, okay. Lollapalooza. I've heard a few interesting ones as well. Anyway, Legacy coming out here on attack. Sombra Goats to try and push through up against the Drop Bears with their traditional form of 3-3. And Fundray going to go down. The Kraken gets the kill, but a lot of that I think was probably coming from Huss and the Brig. Well, Ike's ready though, Jordan. That's right. We're just waiting for Ike. We like Ike? Ike and Tina Turner Tuna. I'm not sure I get that reference. But we still have at least another, 10 or 15 seconds before Ike's going to have this EMP, and then he'll have to position himself as well. So let's not get too excited just yet. I guess he's going to try and force the issue with the Transcendence, and it's worked out. Yeah, it's not bad at all. And Huss goes down. A Kraken forced to pop his Transcendence. As soon as this dissipates, you can use that EMP should you want to, should you need to, I suppose. Maybe they don't even need to. The Drop Bears, I would expect them to want to recontest, but maybe they're content not to. We're waiting. Up to 66%, still have time. Waiting as long as possible. The recontest comes through. The EMP over the top. Hits everyone. There you go. That's the play. Nice work, Legacy. There's literally nothing you can do about that as Sydney Drop Bears as well, right? Sometimes you can cancel the EMP with a Brick Shield Bash or maybe something other sort of soft CC, hard CC, whatever. But if he's literally up in the air like that, then no one's going to reach him. Pretty good EMP out from Mike. I don't think that the Sydney Drop Bears really expected anything else, but at least they've bought a little bit more time. They sat on that point for another 10 seconds or so. They did force the EMP out at least. So it's better than what the alternative would have been, which would have been Sydney Drop Bears backing away there, Ike holding
holds the EMP for another fight.
And then using it in the next fight, which would have given Legacy a lot more actual room to work with. So I think that's a correct decision from Sydney Dropbears, even though it went quite woefully, as you could see.
And Ike's already now up to 50% as well, so a lot of work to be done here. Grab comes through, as does the sound barrier for Legacy. Titawat with an Earth Shatter does find Fundray as well. So the Drop Bears will win the first fight here that we will see as part of the second phase on King's Row. Legacy, to be fair, don't have much to work with, but we've seen the Drop Bears forced to use what they had to win that fight. The next fight, they might only have, well, really the Transcendence, I suppose, in the rally. We'll see. Maybe the self-destruct.
Maybe nothing if the EMP hits everyone again.
Yeah.
Probably not an option this time, though. At least until they force them off the high ground. Yeah, that happens to the rest of us, Ben.
Oh, well.
But now I can hit a big EMP.
You certainly can. Right into the thick of things, and hits 4. That's not really bad. A Kraken goes down. Rani traded out. Fundray with the Shatter hits CKM. Might be able to follow that up. They're folding them back. They're not finding the picks, Jordan.
I just want to say that was a really nice EMP out from Mike, even though the fight isn't working very nicely for Legacy. The counter engage comes across with the Graviton Surge. It's a clean wipe, really, from Sydney Drop Bears. But what he was trying to do there, obviously, was trying to hit a Kraken who did have the EMP, and he achieved that. But there wasn't enough follow-up, and once Ike uses the Translocate to get into the fight, he doesn't really have anything to get out of the fight. That's the big issue.
Oh well. The Drop Bears, well, they gave up Objective A, but they're not letting the payload get any further, certainly not yet. Titawat once again has the Shatter available. He's just lurking, waiting for the right time. That, I don't think, was it, to be perfectly honest, Jordan. CKM's been picked up. The Drop Bears have lost one player. A Kraken with the Transcendence. The hack onto Titawat, self-destruct, grab there from Noosh. A Kraken goes down as well. Legacy find a second pick. The Drop Bears will fall back. The payload will push forward.
I think what Titawat was trying to do there with that Earth Shatter was essentially, as soon as he sees his teammate get traded out, as soon as he sees TKM go down, he's trying to trade it out. That's why he kind of forces a Shatter down early. Because the longer that fight goes after that pick has occurred, the easier it is going to be for Legacy. Unless you equalize straight away, then chances are you do end up losing that fight. Obviously, it didn't work out in his favor, but Earth Shatter's not particularly difficult ult to charge up pretty quickly, so shouldn't cost too much.
45%.
Looking for an EMP again.
Throws it through, hits 4. Bertlog, though, not in the thick of things yet, means he can drop the beat. And that was probably not necessarily how you wanted the EMP to go. But nevertheless, they will find Titawat. Sound Barrier now dropped for Legacy as well. Self-destruct from the Drop Bears finds two big picks, one Sombra, one support. And now Legacy going to have to really fight their way through here if they want to get the payload through. Should be winnable. Checkpoint B.
It was a nice self-destruct from Shoyo. Really didn't expect him to get 2 there. He somehow managed to thread the needle, and actually, Sydney Drop Bears can recontest. They're so bold, so confident. Early trans, though, may be the undoing.
Yeah, it was very early, and it looked good for half a second until it all of a sudden wasn't, and now the Transcendence being used by a Kraken. The payload still gets through, 140 on the clock. The Drop Bears not doing bad at all, to be perfectly honest. I think they should be happy with this, how it's gone.
Yeah, definitely. It's really holdable here in Phase C. Only a minute and a half. That gives you probably 2 fights here as Legacy. One of which will definitely feature the EMP, perhaps the second as well.
Like trying to charge up the EMP, and then you'll see it will now be available. They're happy to give up this fight. They don't really want to commit anything into it. You can see Legacy will sit on everything they've got and come back. Still probably 2 fights here with this first one going down so quickly.
Yeah, maybe. Depends how long the next one does last. EMP, of course, can mean it can last not very long at all, which would be the ideal scenario for Legacy if they just absolutely steamroll Sydney Drop Bears here. But the last couple haven't actually really gone the way of Legacy, even despite some pretty good EMPs out from Ike. Here we go again.
Throws it out, hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think.
Shadow's
and Bertlog's going to get caught out by the Shatter. If Bertlog goes down before he gets to 100%, that should be the end of the fight. Shoyo trying to hold his ground. Here's the CKM who gets booped off the edge. And now the payload will push forward once more. 27 seconds on the clock. That was nice.
It was nice, but I mean, Sydney Drop Bears didn't use either support ultimate there. Not that they had them. But now I think this is still Sydney Drop Bears to hold, right? That's just delaying the inevitable for Legacy unless Ike builds another EMP really quickly here. Or Noosh has a fantastic grab. It just seems like with 2 support ultimates, Sydney Drop Bears should be able to win this, should be able to hold it here.
The beat is dropped by Bertlog. The Drop Bears will push through. A Kraken obviously has that Transcendence as well, and the two-man Earthshatter is not bad. Also, Fundray goes down. Transcendence from a Kraken, self-destruct in the middle, finds Noosh. And look, they find an extra half a meter for free, Jordan, but that's all they're going to get. Yeah. Even the 6-man EMP will not be enough.
It's just too late.
You're not that strong.
No.
However, they got close.
Pretty
got
close.
A lot further than a lot of other teams have got against the Sydney Drop Bears on this hybrid game mode.
This is true, but we have yet to see Sydney Drop Bears on their attack. So time and time again, I mean, Sydney Drop Bears is probably one of the best teams at actually finishing maps off. So I would not be too concerned for them just yet. Took a little while to get going for Legacy, but once they were going, it was pretty nice. I think, again, it just comes down to that EMP being available, being able to rotate through the ult economy pretty nicely when you have a Sombra. And then what is the option now for Sydney Drop Bears? Do they run themselves the Sombra Goats on attack? Or is it just going to be standard? I think the thing for Sydney Drop Bears is that they generally just tend to run standard Goats, Reinhardt Goats or Winston Goats, whatever the situation may be, unless kind of forced into a change-up. And I don't think that they're necessarily forced into a change-up against Legacy. You'll see CKM and Huss hovering the DPS. Huss might give it a crack just out the gate. I suppose if CKM is going to play Farah, we would obviously see Bertlog going over onto the Mercy, in which case you'd be more likely to see a Winston than anything else from Titawat. So it's going to be Sombra Goats on the defense from Legacy. They feel as though that is working, and credit to them, it has been working. The real problem for me is going to be whether or not Legacy can actually hold the first fight, the dry fight, where they don't have any ultimates themselves. Us, in fact, will go over to Sombra. Whether that'll stay or not, we will see. Looks like it's a mirror match.
Yeah, this will definitely be interesting. Which the two Sombras can find their EMP
so
first.
Ideally for Legacy, they win this fight, then they have the EMP for the next fight, which they would charge quote-unquote faster than us. And then they win that, so then they would win 2 fights and probably lose the 3rd. That's, I think, ideal. That's best case scenario for Legacy.
Very aggressive. Titawat goes down. Ike finds one as well. Great start from Legacy. That's what we wanted to see. Well, that's what Legacy certainly wanted to see. That's for sure. And it's going to be tough to hold out the Drop Bears, Jordan, but that's your start.
To see Stolen pick like that. He should not have gotten picked there. This gives an opening actually over to Sydney Drop Bears. You can see Legacy just trying to hold back a little bit. Luckily, to be fair, it is Stolen who can get back to the fight quickest, but it is still an opening for Sydney Drop Bears. It should not have been given over. And
it gives them free ticks on the point as well. Ike still waiting to get that EMP close, but no cigar. 98-99. There's 100. EMP straight away throws it out. That's another 6-man EMP, and it'll capture out a Kraken before he can pop the Transcendence. So even though the Drop Bears get 90% on the point, surely they're not going to be able to capture it. A lot of picks, though, going the Drop Bears' way. You think this next fight goes to them.
Well, even without the picks, I think the next fight goes to them. They themselves have got that EMP. They're going to have the 2 support ultimates up fairly shortly, where Stolen, again, because he got picked, missed out on a lot of ult charge time. So it should be Sydney's to take, unless they mess this up horribly. But there's the EMP, hits 3. It should be enough.
Should be, and with Fundray going down, that's going to make life now very tough for Legacy.
Oh, this is really bad.
Wow.
If you let that cap go over and then get picked like this, it's going to give so much free room to Sydney Drop Bears. You're going to probably see them push all the way into Phase C of the map just to keep Legacy fighting for every inch of space while someone sits on the cart.
Yep. So aggressive are the Drop Bears right now. They were hunting down every last remaining player on the Legacy team. And there's even a world here where Shoyo can just be like, here's a grab.
Yeah, he could. There isn't really much to combo it with, obviously, without having a D.Va.
And Shoyo, of course, sitting on no energy as a result of, well, having a bit of fight in a while.
But you see how far they've managed to get for free. They've essentially taken one fight away from Legacy already.
Both teams dropping grabs to start off this fight, and Noosh, the first one down to a Kraken. EMP onto the Drop Bears will get comboed with Fundray and the Earthshatter. So Legacy actually, the first fight that they take on defense goes in their favor, and I wasn't even necessarily anticipating that.
No, definitely not. A couple of ultimates do go down though from Legacy. Huss still has EMP here. So again, is it just a case of delaying the inevitable for Legacy? Huss is doing some scouting, knows exactly what Legacy's doing. This should be one of the easier EMPs, and he actually even has an escape route as well. He's stolen. He's going to hit him with the EMP, so there's not going to be a sound barrier.
Two picks very quickly over to the Drop Bears. So they throw out one EMP and get a fight win as a result. The payload pushes towards checkpoint B. Huss continues deeper into the third phase of the map just to scout it out, and, well, you know, we'll take that health pack as well. Thank you very much. We're going to have a lot of time now, probably 4 minutes for the Drop Bears to do this, and that's very doable.
Very doable indeed. Still defendable for Legacy if they get a bit of momentum going their way, if they can start controlling the ult economy. But that's not the way that you want to do it. One for one. So I guess it does favor the defensive side just a little bit, but it also means for Legacy that they can't actually push forward and hold the cart where it is. They kind of need to wait for it to come to them as their six comes up.
Gone for free here as well, Jordan. Finally, Legacy get an opportunity to contest now that Fundray is back into the action. 3 ultis available for Legacy, almost that EMP. Grab comes through, captures them right in the middle. Mo with the Transcendence. Tidawat tries to do damage. He's forced to charge back. That Shatter comes through, will get cancelled. Fundray gets cancelled in general. EMP is dropped into the Drop Bears, but I'm not sure how Legacy, or more so Ike, thought that that fight was going to go any way other than not to them.
Well, it certainly wasn't going to work when it didn't hit Bertlog, and he was able to get the sound barrier immediately afterward as well.
Yeah.
And now Legacy, they've gone on to, well,
Ike.
Cheese. Not going to work against the EMP. What are you going to do?
Not much, mate. Not much is the answer. Sound barrier, the last recourse, but no one is on the point. The Drop Bears will complete King's Row, something that Legacy, unfortunately for them, failed to do. Do so with still 3 minutes left on the clock. So, nice job, Legacy, for getting almost all the way there. Great job to the guys at the Sydney Drop Bears. Quite convincing there on attack.
Yeah, about halfway there now as well for Sydney Drop Bears, having won the 2 maps. They just need 2 more, and then they secure that first seed in this season. Once again, for the 3rd season running. Overall, I mean, I guess, again, pretty decent stuff being shown by Legacy. It's just that the consistency is not quite there yet. We see a few of the ultimates not getting value and that kind of thing, whereas from Sydney Drop Bears, by the way, how on earth did they lose that fight? I'm pretty astonished. But regardless, it's a case of, okay, Sydney Drop Bears, when they use their ultimates, they're always getting value, and they're also always pushing that advantage. They're able to take control of the map or do something else with it, right? Stagger someone, whatever. But Legacy, they'll win a fight, and sure, they'll just keep pushing the payload or whatever, but they're not necessarily controlling the map as well as Sydney Drop Bears are. They're not always getting the value out of their ultimates. And for me, it's just Sydney Drop Bears, the consistency that is giving them the win today.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we expected to see it, but there have been some great moments here from this Legacy lineup as well, and maybe some questions asked of the Drop Bears. Maybe, like, they know they've got a lot to play for, but at the same time, they probably expect that they can outplay their opposition today. So do they come into this with the same sort of focus as maybe against someone else?
Look, I don't necessarily think that we ever really get to see the best of Sydney Drop Bears until we see the season finals.
Until they're in the arena. Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh yeah, Order's got a chance, man. And then it's like, nah. Okay. 5-1 or 4-1, whatever the score was. I can't remember.
Look, we're getting closer to that, Jordan. We're getting very, very close right now. It's half time here between the Sydney Drop Bears and Legacy. The Drop Bears need 2 more map wins to lock in first place. The Legacy, a bit of a thorn in their side. Let's see if the Drop Bears can get it out, and we'll be back right after this.